Good afternoon. Now we are going to talk on relay chariots. Pali title is Rathavinita. Only 7 steps of purification are discussed in this discourse, and it's only even in the translation with abbreviations and so forth, 6 pages. And these 6 pages discourse is explained in this book in detail. This entire book is the explanation of this discourse. This is called Path of Purification in English. Pali it is called Visuddhi Magga. This book is the explanation of the discourse that we are going to discuss today. So, there are only 7 steps. As you probably have read the discourse, it is very short and simple. Okay. One day after observing the 3 months training retreat in a state called Jata Bhumaka, bhikkhus assembled before the Buddha, and when he was in Rajagaha, in the squirrel's sanctuary, Kalandaka Nivapa, Buddha gave instructions. Buddha asked a question. Buddha gave 10 kind of talks that somebody talks. When Buddha talked to some lay people who newly came to see him, he talked about dana kata, sila kata, sagga kata, kamanang, asada, adina, okara, sankilesa, nekkhamme, anisansi, and so forth. That is, talking about generosity, morality, the talk about going to heaven, and then the benefit of sensual pleasures, and the danger, degradation, and losing dignity of and defilements of sensual pleasures, and then the benefit of renunciation. These are the talks he normally gave to new lay people. But this talk he gave to a group of bhikkhus who have just finished their vassa. Here Buddha talked, topics were 10 topics. What are they? talk on, he asked the bhikkhus who had spent the rain season, went to see the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, sat down, and then the Blessed One asked them, bhikkhus, who in my native land, Jatabhumi is Buddha's own Kapilavattu, land, is esteemed by the bhikkhus there, by his companions in the holy life in this way. So he was describing a particular type of qualities of a bhikkhu about whom other bhikkhus talk. And he asked, who is the bhikkhu who has these qualities? 1. Having few wishes himself, he talks to bhikkhus on fewness of wishes. That is, oneself is having only few wishes, and he talks to others of few wishes. Of course, when you are mahitya, the person with great greed, desire to acquire, you always talk about greed, acquiring, and so forth. So one who is one who has wishes for few things, he talks about to other bhikkhus on fewness of wishes. Similarly, content himself, he talks to other bhikkhus on contentment. Secluded himself, he talks to the bhikkhus on seclusion. Aloof from society himself, he talks to bhikkhus on aloofness from society. Energetic himself, he talks to the bhikkhus on arousing energy. Attained virtues himself, he talks to bhikkhus on the attainment of virtue. Attained to concentration himself, he talks to bhikkhus on attainment of concentration. Attained to wisdom himself, he talks to the bhikkhus on the attainment of wisdom. Attained to deliverance himself, he talks to the bhikkhus on the attainment of deliverance. Attained to the knowledge and vision of deliverance himself, he talks to the bhikkhus on the attainment of the knowledge and vision of deliverance. He is one who advises, informs, instructs, urges, rouses, and gladdens his companions in this holy life. Who is this person with all these 10 qualities? Then they said, Venerable Sir, it is Venerable Punnamantani Putta. He is so esteemed in the Blessed One's native land by the bhikkhus there, by his companions in the holy life. Now, on that occasion when Sariputta was seated near the Blessed One, then it occurred to the Venerable Sariputta, it is gain for the Venerable Punnamantani Putta, it is a great gain for him, that is, wise companions in the holy life praise him, point by point in the Tathagata's presence. You know, this is the quality of an arahant, whose mind is totally pure and clean. He did not express any jealousy. He did not express any disappointment. He was so delighted, so pleased to hear of the noble qualities of another bhikkhu. And in his absence, he praised him. Not only that, perhaps sometimes or other we might meet the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta and have some conversation with him. So desire, sort of a desire for discussing Dhamma arose in his mind. Venerable Sariputta knew Dhamma perfectly well. He was Dhamma Bhandagarika, the treasurer of Dhamma, and he has learned the Dhamma. One who knows Dhamma delights in discussing Dhamma. When the Buddha praised Venerable Punnamanthaniputta, he said, this is again for the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta. This again. I might have a discussion with him. I hope one day I will have a time to discuss Dhamma with him. Such a wonderful feeling Venerable Sariputta had about Venerable Punnamanthaniputta. Not a scruple of jealousy. So Buddha stayed in Rajagaha, and as long as he chose, he set out to wander by stage Savatthi. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Savatthi, and there he lived in Jeta's Grove, Rathavinita. Then the Punnamanthaniputta heard that the Blessed One has arrived in Savatthi and is living in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta set his resting place in order, and taking his outer robe and bowl, set out to wander by stages to Savatthi. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Savatthi and went to Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park, to see the Blessed One. Now, Buddha talked about Punnamanthaniputta in his absence. Now, Punnamanthaniputta also, after hearing that Buddha was there, now he comes to see the Buddha. So after paying respect to the Buddha, he sat down at one side. Then the Blessed One urged, roused, gladdened him with talk on Dhamma. Then the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta instructed, urged, roused and gladdened by the Blessed One, talk on the Dhamma, delighting and rejoicing in the Blessed One's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, keeping him on his right. That means this is what is called circumambulation. He circumambulated the Buddha and went to the blind man's grove for the day's abiding. At that time, a certain bhikkhu went to Venerable Sariputta and said, Venerable Sir, we heard you express your desire to have a discussion with Venerable Punnamanthaniputta. Now he is in blind man's grove. So Venerable Sariputta also quickly picked up his sitting clothes and his mat and went to see Venerable Punnamanthaniputta. That was in the evening. Venerable Sariputta rose from his meditation and went to see him. As soon as he went there and saw Venerable Punnamanthaniputta, he did not waste 1 minute, and straight away he started the discussion. Is the holy life lived under the Blessed One, friends? Yes, friend. Who answered this? Punnamanthaniputta. But friend, is it for the sake of purification of virtue that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification of mind that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification of view that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification by overcoming doubt that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification by knowledge and vision of what is the path and what is not path that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification or knowledge and vision of the way that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Then is it for the sake of purification by knowledge and vision that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One? No, friend. Now we ask 7 questions. For each question, he said, no, friend. That means he asked 7 steps of purification. What are the 7 steps of purification? First is morality, virtue. Second is purification of mind. Third is purification of views. Fourth, purification by overcoming doubt. Fifth, purification by knowledge and vision of what is path, what is not path. Sixth, purification by knowledge and vision of the way. And sixth, the purification by knowledge and vision. And these are the 7. Let us spend a few minutes on what each purification, trying to discuss what each purification is, what each means. Purification of virtue. This is called sila. There are various categories of sila. For lay people, 5 or 8. For the monastics, 10 or 227 or 311. 10 for novices, for fully ordained bhikkhus, 227. Actually 220, 7 are the steps or the measures one should follow to settle disputes. But including those 7, there are 227 rules of discipline, rules of training. For bhikkhunis, there are 311 rules of training. And all these are divided into various categories. All morality. They are called Patimokka Samvara Sila, Indriya Samvara Sila, Ajiva Parisuddha Sila, and Pacca Nissacca Prati Nisrita Pacca Nissacca Sila. Meaning, Patimokka Samvara, that means the rules that are recorded in Patimokka. Patimokka means preliminary practices, preliminary training for liberation. That is basic training. This is called Pubbha Bhaga Patipada in Pali. And these are the principles or code of rules of training that somebody who enters the monastic life should observe. The purpose of observing Sila is to cleanse the mind of various type of habits, so that the life becomes relatively comfortable, easy to practice Dhamma and to gain concentration, to be free from remorse. Then Indriya Sangvara Sila means restraining our senses. Restraining our senses means not closing our eyes when we see an object, but when we see objects or hear sound, smell, taste something, and touch something or think something, we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful not to let the mind be obsessed with greed, hatred or delusion. For instance, when we see an object, if the object happens to be pleasant, greed can arise in our mind. If the object happens to be unpleasant, hatred can arise in our mind. If the object is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, confusion can arise in our mind. So when we see, this is by seeing, also when we hear, smell, taste, touch or think object, one of these three mental reactions can take place. And that would be detrimental to our spiritual practice, calming our mind, cleansing our mind. Therefore, when the senses come across with sensory stimuli, we got to be mindful, not to let the stimuli bombard, obsess our mind through the senses. That is what is called restrain our senses. Restraining means not to let these things invade our mind by practicing mindfulness. That is called yoniso manasikara. If we have ayoniso manasikara, unmindful reflection, when we see an object or hear a sound, smell something, taste something, touch something, or think something, then we become a victim of greed, hatred, and delusion. In order to avoid that, we got to remain mindful. This is called restraining our senses. Not closing our eyes when we see an object or hear sound and so forth. Just be mindful, not to let the mind be obsessed with these obsessions. Then Ajiva Parisuddha Sila means making our living by right means. For the lay people there is a right livelihood. For the monastic there is a right livelihood. Lay people's right livelihood, they can do a job which does not involve in anything unethical, immoral. Similarly, there are right livelihood for the monastics. there's a whole list of things that the monastics are not supposed to do for living, like doing business and dealing with selling and buying and palm reading, reading horoscopes and practicing medicines. There are many such things that are prohibited for the monastic. If they make their living by doing those things, they are not right livelihood for the monastics. Whole list of cultivating lands and having cattle and pigs and farms, animal farms and so many other things monastics are not supposed to do for living. That is called Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila. Then Pratya Sannisrita Sila means the restraining or virtue of using 4 requisites. Pacha means food, clothes, medicine and shelter. These are the 4 requisites. And monastics must use these 4 requisites with mindful reflection. And that also is considered to be a sila, moral thing. And these are the things that are explained in this book in about 200 or 300 pages in this book. Path of purification. That is Sila Visuddhi, purification of morality. Why do we purify the morality? For the purification of mind. To purify the mind, we have to practice concentration, meditation, overcoming our 5 hindrances through the attainment of at least first jhana. Until we attain the first jhana, our mind is not free from 5 hindrances. What are the 5 hindrances? Greed, hatred, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry, and doubt. These are the 5 hindrances. When we practice concentration, meditation, we overcome these 5 hindrances. Purification of view is understanding that defines nature of the 5 aggregates which make up living being. Now, in mindfulness practice, we learn to look at each of these 5 aggregates analytically. Why? In order to remove our wrong views. Wrong views. Wrong view particularly depends on the wrong view of permanent self. That is what's called wrong view. In order to see that none of the 5 aggregates is self, we got to analyze each aggregate. For example, form, rupa, as I mentioned the other day, people tend to think form is identical with self. They take self as form, and they think form is in the self, or self is in the form. These are 4 ways of thinking about the self related to form. Similarly, feeling, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness. for each of these 5 aggregates, there are 4 ways of thinking of permanent self. Therefore, we will have 20 ways of looking at permanent self. That is wrong view. When we misunderstand, wrongly view, wrongly look at our 5 aggregates, these are the 20 types of notions of self that we come up with in relation to 5 aggregates. In order to see this correctly, properly, exactly as they are, we have to take each aggregate separately and look at them analytically. For example, we take the form, then we find what is the form. Form is made up of 4 elements. And take each element and analyze each element up to last analyzable or divisible point. When we analyze and analyze and analyze, finally this so-called earth element comes down to mere activities, like waves, motions, quark. We can never find anything permanent, eternal, tangible there. That is the nature of earth element. Similarly, when we analyze the water element, we come to the same conclusion. It is not something permanent, tangible, eternal. It turns out to be mere activities. So is air element and fire element. When we come to that kind of understanding, this total notion of permanent self will totally vanish from our mind. That is called purification. Then our view will be purified. Then the 4th is purification of overcoming doubt. To overcome doubt, again we take the 5 aggregates and look at them in terms of dependent origination. When we look at the 5 aggregates in terms of using the dependent origination formula, all we can see is some phenomena arises depending on another phenomena. When that phenomena fades away, this resultant phenomena does not arise. For example, there is a very famous pithy statement. There is a whole summary of dependent origination. It is called imasming sati idang hoti. Imassa uppada idang uppajjati. Imasming asati idang nahoti. Imassa nirodha idang nirujjati. These are the 4 sentences we got to remember as a summary of dependent origination. What are the 4 sentences? When this is, that arises. No. When this is, that is. When this arises, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases. When at the cessation of this, that will be ceased. These are the 4 sentences. Now, all the 5 aggregates are subject to this formula. We can use this formula to look at the whole 5 aggregates. And then, whatever doubt we have with regard to self will vanish. The doubt is especially with regard to self. and other kind of doubt about the previous existence, the future existence, karma, rebirth and so forth, are subordinate to this very strong, powerful doubt. Then, purification by knowledge and vision of what is path, what is not the path, is when we meditate, there comes a stage where there appears to be some kind of light, clarity, purity, and brightness of mind, acceleration, and aesthetics feelings, and so forth arise. Then one should not get carried away with them, but look at them, look at these experiences in terms of impermanence. These are all impermanent. They all are unsatisfactory. They all are without self. So in the light of these three characteristics, we look at those extraordinary experiences. That way we realize this is not the path and this is the path. Then, number 6, purification by knowledge and vision of the way. That purification arises, it comprises the ascending series of insight knowledge. There are various types of insight knowledge. Basic 9 of them are Udaya Bhaya, that is, knowledge of rising and falling. Bhanga, Bhanga means breaking up, falling apart. And Bhaya, Bhaya means fear. You know, this is one word I like to explain a little bit. In meditation, some people come to us and say, Bhante, when I was meditating, I had a fear. So the person wants to give me an impression that the person has gained this insight knowledge. If you have fear in meditation, it is not insight knowledge. The kind of fear is talked about here is a very special kind of fear. That is a wholesome fear. Wholesome fear. How fear can be wholesome? When you see all the sankharas, all conditioned things that arose in the past, all are impermanent, all are unsatisfactory, all are without self. All the conditioned things that you have now, they all are impermanent, all unsatisfactory, all without self. Then you come to inferential thinking, inferential awareness. Well, in that case, all the conditioned things in future, all the conditioned things in future are impermanent, unsatisfactory and selfless. Seeing impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and selflessness of all conditioned things of the past, present and future, there arises a fear that if I do not attain enlightenment now, I have to go through all these things once again. No matter how many times I will have to go through them again. That is the fear. That is where we will have a spiritual urgency, Dhamma Sangvega. Dhamma Sangvega, Vega means speed. Vega means speed. Dhamma samvega means you speed up your practice by seeing this reality. You accelerate. You press your gas pedal little harder to the board, to go at the maximum speed. That comes from seeing this fear, the fear of, not any kind of fear of dream, fear of seeing animals and demons and goblins and petas and tigers and so forth, snakes, and not that kind of fear. This fear arises from insight. This is one of the insight knowledge. This is inside knowledge. And therefore, this is what we call a wholesome fear, meaningful fear, fear that urges us to practice very ardently, earnestly, to attain liberation. So now how many knowledges we got?
6.
Udavya, Bhanga, Bhaya. Then Adinava. Friends, Adinava is the meaning danger. Danger of what? Danger of having again the same 5 aggregates in future. In this life, the 5 aggregates have given us enormous amount of problems. We have to bathe it, feed it, clothe it, and take care of when we are sick, and so many things we have experienced in this life, and then again we think we may have it again. That is the danger. We see this danger. That is insight. It is not something negative, it is totally wholesome, positive experience, insight. Then nibbida. Nibbida means it has been translated into English as revulsion, disappointment, not disappointment. Revulsion is
Disenchantment.
Disenchantment, right. That is another word. Disenchantment. I was thinking of another word to drive point home. That is also something very wholesome. This disenchantment or revulsion is something wholesome. How it is wholesome? It comes from insight. Insight. When we had this discussion, once I mentioned what the Buddha has said in Samyutta Nikaya about little children. Children make sand castles on the beach, and they really enjoy seeing that, play with it, and they really, in their mind, they are castles for them. Sometimes little girls cook, imaginary cooking, and they take imaginary spoon and then take something and give to you, and you also pretend to be eating. Then you also simply open your mouth and let the child put imaginary thing, and then tasty. So the child goes and does something else, making a soup, and brings to you and give. That's all imaginary. There is no soup. But child enjoys doing that. Sandcastles and all kind of playthings they make, and they really enjoy because they are very imaginative and they live in a very imaginary world, and they really enjoy that. Then when that child grows up, maybe 10, 12 years old, and see another child, little child doing that, this child will laugh. This child will laugh because It is silly. Adults, they don't laugh. I have seen it many times, children doing it. I would not laugh. We adults think, see, this is their life. This is their world. When that person grows up and comes to adulthood, that person turns away from that, engaged in something more meaningful, because the person is matured, understanding, and no longer interested in child play. That kind of turning away from all these mundane things is called revulsion or disenchantment. It comes from insight, comes from maturity, comes from understanding, comes from knowing the nature, the truth. Therefore, it is not something negative. It is very meaningful, wholesome, positive insight. That is why it is called insight. Then, Bhanga, Bhaya, Adinava, Nibbida. When you have that, then there arises another insight called Viraga. Raga means clinging, gluing to something. Then that glue dries up. When you have this understanding, no longer do you have that gluing, clinging, holding, grasping attitude. Easily you can let go of that child play. Easily you can abandon it from your mind without hurting you, because you do it with a deep, profound understanding. That's called viraga. Viraganupasi, nirodhanupasi. Udayavya, bhanga, bhaya, adinava, nibbida. Then nibbida, munchitukamyata. Munchitukamyata means a desire arises in you for liberating yourself from this whole scenario, whole situation. You want to liberate yourself. And you think, I don't have anything to do with this sort of things anymore. And that's desire. Udayavya, bhanga, bhaya, adina. Then patisankhānupekkhā. Patisankhānupekkhā means seeing, you reflecting on all conditioned things more deeply, more closely. You reflect on all conditioned things. Then anuloma. Anuloma means going with the hair. Loma means you learn in 32 parts of the body. Kesa, loma. Loma means body, hair of the body. You go along with the hair. That means you follow the Aryans, nobles' footsteps. Nobles stage. That is just before attaining Sotapanna or stream entry state. That's called Anuloma. Then next is Gotrabhu. Gotrabhu means you belong to the noble Aryans clan. And these are called stages of insight. When these stages of insight arise, then your knowledge, by your purification of knowledge, by knowledge and vision of the way is complete. Then what is left is purification by knowledge and vision. Then it is just like you are climbing a mountain, and then you, after reaching the mountain, you want to take a deep breath and say, finally, I have reached. I have reached. That kind of relaxing, comforting, content experience is called purification of knowledge and vision. Now, so when Venerable Sariputta asked Venerable Manthaniputra, each question, Venerable Manthaniputra said, no, 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 no. Then Venerable Sariputta asked him, Venerable Sir, for each question you say no, 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 no. Can you explain that to me? Then Venerable Manthaniputra tells him, as to that friend, I shall give you a simile. For some wise men understanding the meaning of a statement by means of a simile, suppose that King Pasenadi of Kosala, while living at Savatthi, had some urgent business to attend and settle in Saketa. And that between Saketa and Savatthi and Saketa, 7 relay chariots were kept ready for him. Then King Pasenadi Kosala, leaving Savatthi through the inner palace door, would mount the first relay chariot, and by means of the first relay chariot he would arrive at the second relay chariot. Then he would dismount from the first chariot and mount the second chariot. By means of that second chariot, he would arrive at the third chariot, and so forth. Then he dismount that and remount the third. By means of third chariot, he would arrive at the fourth chariot. By means of the fourth chariot, he would arrive at the fifth chariot. By means of fifth chariot, he would arrive at the sixth chariot. By means of sixth chariot, he would arrive at the seventh chariot. And by means of the seventh chariot, he would arrive at inner palace door in Saketa. Now he started in Savatthi, ended in Saketa, and he changed 6 chariots and ended up in Saketa in 7th chariot. Then when he had come to the inner palace door, his friend and acquaintances, his kinsmen and relatives would ask him, Sir, did you come from Savatthi to inner palace door of Saketa by means of the relay chariot? How then should King Pasenadi Kosala answers in order to answer correctly? Then he has to say, I started in one chariot, came and dismounted from that, got on to second, then came to the third, and so forth and so on. He has to explain. So Venerable Purnamantaniputra said, similarly, friends, purification of virtue is for the sake of purification of mind. Because without purifying the virtue, we cannot purify the mind. So purification of mind depends on the purification of virtue. Purification of mind is for the sake of purification of views. So purification of view depends on the purification of mind. And so forth. Each of them, purification of view is for the sake of reaching the purification of overcoming doubt, purification by overcoming doubt, each for the sake of reaching purification of knowledge and vision and so forth. Each of them helps each preceding stage of purification helps each succeeding stage of purification. Each succeeding stage of purification depends on each preceding purification. Therefore, all the 7 stages of purification are interdependent, not independent. Now, the way the discourse ended is also very, very beautiful, wonderful. When Venerable Punnamanthaniputta explained these things very clearly, Venerable Sariputta asked him, what is the Venerable One's name? How do his companions in the holy life know the Venerable One? Now, Venerable Sariputta had not seen Venerable Punnamanthaniputta before. This is the first time they met. So Venerable Sariputta asked him, in short, what is your name? Punnamanthaniputta was so humble and he simply said, my name is Punna, friend, but my companions in the holy life know me as Mantaniputta. Mantani was his mother's name, and therefore he is called Mantaniputta. Putta means son. Mantani, son. So Venerable Sariputta said, it is wonderful, friend, it is marvelous. Each profound question has been answered point by point by the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta as a learned disciple who understands the teacher's dispensation correctly. It is a gain for his companions in the holy life. It is a great gain for them that they have the opportunity to see and honor the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta, even if it were by carrying the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta about on a cushion on their heads, that his companions in his holy life would get the opportunity to see and honor him. It would be a gain for them, a great gain for them, and it is gain for us, great gain for us that we have the opportunity to see and honor the Venerable Punnamanthaniputta. Venerable Sariputta was one of the 2 chief disciples of the Buddha. Punnamanthaniputta was not elevated that status, but he observed 10 wonderful, noble principles. What are they? He was appicca, santutta, pavivita, viryaramba, wise. He was full of sila, samadhi, panya, vimutti jnana darsana. These are the 10 noble qualities he had. And therefore he was very famous for these noble qualities. So, in turn, Venerable Punnamanthaniputta praised Venerable Sariputta, same way. First he asked, what your Venerable's name? My name is Upatissa. That was what he was called when he was a lay person. My companions in the holy life know me as Sariputta. Sari was his mother's name, so this is Sari's son. See, in those days, children were named by the mother's name. When the children are famous, mothers are known by the children's name. When they may be matriarchic family, the mother must be the head of the family, and therefore mother was known, famous, and children took mother's name. So that is how they are. So Venerable Sariputta, Punnamantani also praised Venerable Sariputta the same way and appreciated his company. And this first encounter between them. So friends, I must stop here. I have been instructed by our retreat coordinator to have 1 hour talk in the afternoon and give some time for people to study. Okay? So now your study time, right? Okay.